Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to tune in. I greatly appreciate it. March Madness Day 2 starts here in about 2 hours. Purdue, they're playing tomorrow against McNeese State. And yesterday, I don't want to call it dull. I don't want to call it boring because that wouldn't properly frame how yesterday went in terms of day one of March Madness. We didn't have any crazy upsets though. Only 4 of the lower seeds won games yesterday. And that's it. Creighton, obviously to start the day, 9 seed beats an 8 seed. It's not really an upset. Okay, but that was our first game of the day where, just in general, but also the first game of the day where a lower seed beat a higher seed. A 9 seed beat an 8 seed. And not only did Creighton beat Louisville, they demolished Louisville. I thought Louisville was underseeded. That's what everyone kept telling me. They finished, did a good job in the ACC and, ranked 10th in the final AP poll and whatever. They were not very good. What a shocker. The ACC, a conference we've known to be bad all year, hasn't been very good so far. They got crushed yesterday. They got beat so bad by Creighton that people are talking about Creighton actually beating Auburn now. It's certainly possible. Don't get me wrong. Once you reach the round of 32, anyone can beat anyone. But come on, are you really going to pick Creighton to beat Auburn? I'm not. Creighton did look awesome though. They look like a normal Creighton team. They can just flat out score the basketball. And when you can score the ball at the level that they scored it at yesterday, you can beat anybody, including Auburn or Duke or Florida or Houston or anyone else in the country that you think is really good at basketball. My Arkansas Razorbacks beat Kansas yesterday. And once again, 10 seed beating a 7 seed, not a super big deal. I do want to say, though, watch out for Arkansas. All right, now I'm doing my best to not be super biased in this matter, but they do have 3 good guards, and we do know that guards win in March. John L. Davis, experienced, been to a Final Four. Okay, really good player from Gary. He hit some big shots yesterday for Arkansas in order for them to pull off the the upset over Kansas. DJ Wagner's a stud, really good first half yesterday, and then Boogie Fland still trying to find the rhythm on offense, but he is still one of the best freshmen in the country. John Calipari lied, said he'd play 10 to 15 minutes. He played 24. Didn't turn the ball over once. And you need guards like that against St. John's. I don't think they'll beat St. John's, but they have the guard play to beat someone like that. Okay? St. John's, by the way, rough first half, then ended up beating Omaha by 30. I mean, just blew them out of the water in that second half. Drake beats Missouri. Bennett Sturts, man. Oh, my gosh. That dude's insanely good. I mean, that kid's awesome. He's a junior, and I think he should enter the transfer portal and get paid $1 bajillion to go to some power, power conference school. Teams would line up to pay that kid so much money. Because he played all 40 minutes, didn't make a mistake, took good shots, didn't really turn the ball over, was where he was supposed to be consistently on the defensive end of the floor. That dude is awesome. Neither team took more than 50 shots. Every time Missouri got close in that game, Drake was just like, all right, no big deal. Let's just go on a little run right here just to push the game back out of reach. It was just a really impressive performance. Drake can undoubtedly beat Texas Tech. Not a doubt in my mind that they can beat them. Will they? I don't know. Remains to be seen. We'll see them play tomorrow. Clemson loses to McNeese State. And, I'm very vocal. Didn't think that was going to happen. Thought that McNeese State was, better last year than they are this year. Clemson, though, comes out. They score a whopping 13 points in the first half. I mean, just suffocating, really, good defense from McNeese. And it was just, I thought it was a really impressive performance. Indiana fans, I have to ask, aren't you so glad that they didn't hire Brad Brunell, head coach at Clemson, who's from Evansville? I mean, I think Clemson only scoring 13 points in that first half was the most jarring thing that happened yesterday. Part of that was Clemson missed some open shots. It happens. The other part of it is McNeese is very athletic, and they play good defense. Clemson's best player in that first half, Chase Hunter, didn't score. Didn't log a single point. And that's that to me is very eye-opening, very important, because who's Purdue's best player? It's Braden Smith. So McNeese, I think, is constructed very well to beat Purdue. And I think they will. What has been Purdue's biggest issue all year? They struggle with athletic teams, and Purdue struggles at protecting the rim. They have some of the worst 2-point field goal defense in the country. McNeese State is athletic, and they want to get to the rim. And they're not just athletic. They are big and athletic. Look at their guards. Javon Garcia is 6'3", Brandon Murray's 6'5", DJ Richards Jr. 6'4", Quadir Copeland is 6'6", Sincere Parker is 6'3". Those are their guards. They're big and athletic. And that is just not a good combination for Purdue to have to defend or to have defend them. Also, McNeese's forwards, big, athletic, and can switch. Very, very switchable, which is part of why I like McNeese. Because, when your forwards aren't as big, I think you're just a little more flexible defensively. And once again, they're also very athletic at that forward spot. The way to beat Purdue is pretty straightforward. It's just really difficult to do, though. You have to take Braden Smith or Trey Kaufman-Wren out of the game. You have to figure out a way to get them to struggle shooting the basketball. High Point yesterday, they were in so much of that game. Purdue ends up, winning that game. But the reason why High Point was in it for as long as they were was because Braden Smith was 6 of 19 from the floor. It's not, that's not very good. Okay, whatever they did to him in terms of, setting up, the way that they defended him was, impressive. They did a good job of keeping him in check, but High Point they don't have the same level of athletes as, a Power 5 school or McNeese, because McNeese has some awesome athletes on their team as well. Okay, so you can slow down Braden Smith. That's one way to do it. Or you can slow down Trey Kaufman-Wren. Okay, that's how you beat Purdue. And when you look at the lineup and you look at how McNeese State is built, I think my mind jumped to this. I think yours would as well. When you go through the roster, you're okay, they don't have anyone who can guard Trey Kaufman-Wren. They don't have anyone who matches up with him, which is very true. Then again, McNeese State didn't have anyone to guard Clemson's post players either, and they were just fine against Clemson. Now, obviously, Trey Kaufman-Wren, much better than every post player for Clemson, okay? What I'm kind of expecting to happen tomorrow is when Trey Kaufman-Wren catches the ball against McNeese State, he's probably going to power his way to the bucket and score. He's going to put those big shoulders into some dude and then spin off super quick, get back to that right hand, and probably score. Because that's just what he does to everybody. And when he catches the basketball, I do expect for McNeese State to try to double him on the block. And I say all this, and you're probably like, well, Jonathan, if you think that's going to happen, then why do you think McNeese State is going to win this game? I just don't know how often Trey Kaufman-Wren is going to touch the ball down on the block. McNeese State only gave up 17 points to Clemson's post players yesterday. They only allowed 24 points in the paint. They had 6 blocks. The reason why they were fine, despite being undersized, The reason why, Clemson didn't just, power their way through them is because of the pressure that they were able to put on Clemson's guards. Like there was constant ball pressure in the half court. They switched everything. They put a ton of pressure on the basketball. And it's tough to make a post-entry pass when there's someone pressuring the basketball. And we're going to see McNeese State pressure the ball the entire game tomorrow when they play against Purdue. Okay? Like they are going to be all over the ball handler. When they go to a ball screen, they're just going to switch. Yesterday, Braden Smith could get that 12 to 15-foot jump shot whenever he wanted, right? And that is his bread and butter, okay? He missed a lot of them yesterday, but he could get that whenever he wanted for two reasons. One, High Point just doesn't have the players to guard him. They don't have it. Like, they don't have the athletes on the perimeter to stay in front of Braden Smith and make life tough on him. So he could get to the rim or get that, 12 to 15-foot jumper whenever he wanted it. The other reason why he could get that shot whenever he wanted is because High Point played drop coverage. They had a 7-footer in the game to defend Trey Kaufman-Renn, and they'd run that ball screen, and, High Point just didn't have athletic enough bigs to do anything other than play drop coverage. And so when you play drop coverage, Braden Smith can take 2 dribbles and get into that little pull-up jump shot that he really loves. That will not be an option tomorrow against McNeese State. McNeese State has guys who are capable of playing like one-on-one perimeter defense. They have that. They also don't have a 7-footer that's unathletic. That's not fair to the High Point guys. McNeese State doesn't have a 7-footer who has to play drop coverage because he can't defend guards, okay? What they're going to do is they're just going to switch all of these screens, because when you look at their roster, it's a lot of 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys that are all athletic. Christian Shoemate was the most impactful player yesterday for McNeese State. He's 6'6", and he's going to blow up so many ball screens tomorrow. So many ball screens. I expect for Will Wade, who, as much of a scumbag as he is a good basketball coach. I'm just kind of expecting him to put Christian Shoemate on Trey Kaufman-Renn because he's very long, very athletic, and you want him defending ball screens. Like that. Like that is what you want if you're McNeese State. And all of the McNeese State forwards are like that. They're like 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", and highly athletic. Like, they're not really forwards. Like, they just have to list them as that on their roster charts. Okay? So, defensively, I like their matchup and how they're going to defend the Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith screen and roll that we know that we're going to see a bajillion times because Purdue loves to run that. The other thing about McNeese State that I think is important to note from yesterday, they held Clemson's best player, a guard, Chase Hunter, to 0 points in the first half. That's impressive. To hold any team's best player to 0 points is impressive. It points to two things. One, Chase Hunter missed shots that he usually makes. And two, McNeese State did a good job on him defensively. I'm not saying that they're going to hold Braden Smith to 0 points and a half. That is not going to happen. But they do have the personnel and the players and the length and the size to make life tough on Braden Smith. My other concern for Purdue, when we look at that matchup for tomorrow, is the other guys. How do C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, and Miles Colvin, guys who are going to have the basketball in their hands and have to put it on the deck a few times, especially C.J. Cox, how do they handle that pressure on the ball? Do you trust them to face ball pressure like that for the entire game? Clemson turned the basketball over 13 times yesterday with a bunch of juniors and seniors that played in the Elite Eight last year. 10 of those turnovers came in the first half. For Purdue, they have one experienced ball handler, and it's Braden Smith. and he's going to play the full 40 minutes. He better have the ball in his hands the entire time, because those other guys, they are not going to handle that ball pressure very well. Okay? I don't trust those guys. And that becomes problematic for Purdue, because Braden Smith is already playing the entire game. He's playing the full 40 minutes. And it's nice sometimes to be able to give the ball to C.J. Cox and let him bring it up the floor. That's not an option tomorrow. Braden Smith is going to have to do everything for a full 40 minutes. And I think, Purdue's going to hold a pretty steady lead. They're up by 6. They're up by 8 for most of the game. And then we're going to get to the last 4 minutes. And Purdue's going to go to their put-away offense. Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith ball screen. And Braden Smith's going to pull up for those mid-range jumpers, and they're going to be a little short. I think McNeese State is just going to wear him down over the course of the game. And I think late down the stretch, Purdue, their two best players, Trey Kaufman-Renn and especially Braden Smith, their legs are going to go. They won't execute late just because those guys are tired from having to do this all year. And that is what's going to cost Purdue the game. McNeese State, pretty fresh. Like, they play a lot of guys because all these guys are the same. So I like the matchup defensively for McNeese. That's why I expect them to win the game. I say, well, Jonathan, that's only half the game. What about the offense? I like the offensive matchup for McNeese State as well. I really do. And I'm going to tell you why when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you guys are having a nice day. Hopefully you got to take yesterday and today off. You're just trying to, kill some time before noon when the games get going today. Baylor, Mississippi State, first game of the day. Purdue, McNeese State, they get it started tomorrow. They're playing at, 12:05 on CBS. So I like McNeese to win that game. I do. I think that, Purdue's going to have a pretty tough time getting into their offense. I think they're going to wear Braden Smith down over the course of the game because they have the athletes to actually defend the ball, unlike High Point yesterday. And look, that's only half the game. You can play great defense, but if you can't score, you're not going to win. So what about the offense? What is it about McNeese State's offense that I like enough to have them beat Purdue? McNeese State wants to get to the rim. That is their offensive thing. They want to get to the rim. They take 58 shots per game on average. Only 20 of them come from three. Okay? And it's not because they're a bad three-point shooting team and they're just incapable of knocking down perimeter shots. Okay, they're a 36% three-point shooting team on the year. They don't fall in love with it, though. They know where their bread is buttered. They want to get to the rim. They took 62 shots against Clemson yesterday. 19 of them were threes. That's it. By the way, they beat Clemson and only made 4 threes. That is like unheard of. They shot 21% from three, still scored 69 points, nice, and won that game. Okay? Like that's crazy. To only make 4 threes and beat a team like Clemson, that's good. Like that is impressive. Now, they did shoot they did shoot 54% from the floor on 2-point shots and finished the game with 44 points in the paint. Clemson, I think, is very similar to Purdue. They don't have a real rim protector, and that was so obvious from the start of that game. Every time McNeese got to the rim, it just felt easy for them. Like they were just jumping over everybody and using their long arms and 6'6" frames to lay the basketball in. So how does Purdue deal with that? And there's 2 parts of protecting the rim. Obviously, having a center on the back line of your defense who can block shots. That's the most obvious part of it. The other part of it, though, is having guards who can just stay in front of whoever they're defending. Braden Smith, smart defender, but not, a super physically inclined defender. Fletcher Lawyer is having to guard like small forwards because of Purdue's lack of size, and I do think that C.J. Cox is a solid defender. But they do a great job at staying in front of the ball handler. So I think McNeese State gets to the rim a lot, and they finish well because Caleb First tries hard. Will Berg has gotten better, but they don't have any real rim protection on the back end of their defense, and they're playing against a McNeese State that just scored 44 points in the paint against Clemson, who also doesn't have any real rim protection. The other thing about Purdue that I do find to be problematic, Purdue's not a great rebounding team. They hold their own. They, they send guys to the glass. They get after it. But they are susceptible to being out-rebounded. And we saw McNeese State take on, a smaller Clemson team yesterday and just destroy them on the backboards. Okay, now, I don't think that McNeese State is going to grab 18 offensive rebounds like they did yesterday against Clemson. But I do think that they're going to grab, 9 or 10 of them. I do fully expect for that to happen. So I like McNeese. I think that just the way that they play, their athleticism, it's just not a good matchup for Purdue. I expect McNeese to get to the rim, finish at the rim. And I also expect them to shoot the ball better than what they did yesterday. Okay, 4 of 19 from 3 does not show how good of a shooting team McNeese State is. They are a 36%, as a team, they shot 36% from 3 on the season. They shot 21% yesterday. If water finds its level tomorrow and they continue to be as active defensively and on the glass as they were yesterday, they're going to have an excellent, excellent chance to beat Purdue and advance to the Sweet 16. Now, that is all happening tomorrow. Today, though, we have games. We have more games going on today, and I can't wait because we got a nice list of good games starting right at noon. I love how the NCAA tournament, these first 2 days of the tournament, they are opening with 8 and 9 matchups. So yesterday they opened with Louisville and Creighton. Today, Baylor and Mississippi State. I cannot wait to watch this game. They say, well, yeah, Jonathan, you're an SEC guy. Absolutely. Well, yes, I am. But no, I want to watch this game because of Baylor. Now, if you have been, tuned in from the start of the show, first and foremost, thank you. You can also watch the show on YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket, if you want to subscribe and watch the show there and be part of the conversation. I am a bit of an athlete snob. I just like basketball teams that are highly athletic and play above the rim. Part of why I don't really enjoy watching women's basketball, because they just don't do that. Okay? I'm excited to watch Baylor play Mississippi State today because VJ Edgecombe is playing, and he's the best athlete in college basketball this year. This guy is going to be a lottery pick. He's a freshman at Baylor. I mean, like, the way that he just jumps, it's incredible. He is dynamite on the court. Like he is, man. Like, he's blazing quick. He's got a good handle. He can kind of shoot it a little bit. But, man, he's just like you blink and he's not at the rim. His chest is at the rim. Like, it's incredible. So very excited to watch him play starting at noon. Mississippi State, though, they are favored for a reason. I don't really know what that reason is. They're big. They're long. They defend. They rebound, kind of. Josh Hubbard's a good player who can win a game for you, but I don't know. I picked Baylor to win, but for some reason Mississippi State's favored. I don't really get it. Next game today that I think is going to be legitimately good. Colorado State is playing Memphis. And this is a very rare game where a 12 seed is favored. They are a 1.5 point favorite. Colorado State is giving 1.5 points to Memphis, which is absurd. Like that's just like, this never happens. A 12 seed favored over a 5? What? Insane. But I can't wait for people to see Nick Clifford play. He's a legitimate NBA player. That's why Colorado State is favored as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Memphis this season is notorious for playing at the level of their competition. So just because of that and that alone, this game should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of talent on the floor. As always, Memphis is extremely talented, as they have been every single year under Penny Hardaway. But can they find a way to slow down Nick Clifford, and can they make enough shots to win the game? Next game that I'm very intrigued to kind of see how it goes. Vanderbilt's playing St. Mary's. I think both these teams are solid. Okay, Vanderbilt doesn't really make mistakes. They take good shots. They're always in the right spot, both on the offensive and defensive end. They don't really turn the ball over. And St. Mary's does the exact same thing. Like this should be a very fun, entertaining game, just filled with just good basketball. Like, you watch some of these March Madness games, and they're just incredibly ugly. And you're sitting back and you're watching, and it's like, oh, like another turnover? Really? Another bad shot? Another guy missing his defensive assignment? And I don't think we're going to see that at all in this Vanderbilt and St. Mary's game. So it should hopefully be a lot of fun to watch. The game that I have circled. So just a heads up, I won't be here Monday or Tuesday. I got some family stuff going on, so I'm leaving at some point today to head down and see my family in good old Chattanooga. And my goal is to get there by 7. Because if I get there by 7, I can watch the entire New Mexico and Marquette game. Donovan Dent, that dude's going to be so much fun to watch. New Mexico, I think, is the best mid-major team in the tournament, with the exclusion of Gonzaga, because I don't really think of them as a mid-major team, given all of the success that they've had. They got a lot of dudes who can play New Mexico, and they have size. 3 guys in their starting lineup, 6'9" or taller. Marquette, like that's a good team. Cam Jones is one of the best guards in the country. That matchup between Cam Jones and Donovan Dent is going to be so much fun to watch. We got, Richard Pitino down there in New Mexico coaching. His, father, Rick Pitino, had his way last night and just crushed Omaha after a pretty rough first half there. They'll play my Razorbacks tomorrow at like 2:50. Anyway, so I think that New Mexico and Marquette game is going to be just an absolute blast. Last game of the day that I am very intrigued to watch is Oklahoma and UConn. I picked UConn, but I don't like it. I think Oklahoma's a lot better than people realize. I think they see that 6-12 SEC record and then forget how good the SEC was this year. Okay, but they've beaten some really good teams. Okay, Fears, freshman guard for Oklahoma, he can go win a game by himself for you. He is so good. Now, they're playing UConn, and I really like Coach Hurley. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't. But college basketball is just better when he's involved. It just is. There's a little more passion, right? They've taken on this villain role because, people don't really like Danny Hurley. So, UConn's going to be ready. They're going to be prepared. Liam McNeely, he's still been one of the better freshmen in the country this year. And they have legitimate expectations based on recent success. And so not only do you and I expect for UConn to go out there and to play well and win, we also expect, or they expect it as well, because they're UConn. That's what they do. They show up in March and they just start winning basketball games. That is what they do. So Oklahoma, I think, is slept on. They're taking on this UConn team that everyone is very, very familiar with. And then the winner of it gets to play Florida, which is, going to be fun. They're playing, whoever they're playing today, and they're favored by 1 million. And so can't wait. Either way, whoever wins this game, I do think it's going to be fun to watch them play against Florida. So those are the good games today. Those are the games that I expect to sit down and watch wire to wire and just enjoy, just really enjoy watching. So we have those games. And yesterday I introduced another set of games called Sackman games. If you don't know who the Sackman is, he's a figure who goes on the Dan Dockett show and wins a lot of bets because he just fades the public. And so I've got 4 games of which I've labeled Sackman games where I feel like the public likes a certain team way too much to take them either in Vegas or just in your picks in general. I'm going to tell you what the 4 Sackman games are to watch out for when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket, where the predictions are flying. Give me McNeese tomorrow. I like him. I do. I'm sorry. Sorry, Purdue fans. I hope you win. But I don't think you're going to. No other way around it. So today we got some good games. Then we also have the Sackman games, the ones where everyone thinks that they know what's going to happen, but then they don't. So Sackman games are basically where we're going to fade the public and hopefully do better because we're fading the public. So apparently a lot of people like Bryant against Michigan State, maybe not to win, but instead to at least, cover the spread. By the way, coming up today at 11:20, Luke Brennaman's going to join the show, and we're going to continue to talk about Darian DeVries coming over from West Virginia to be the head coach at Indiana. So Bryant in Michigan State, Bryant's, they're going to speed the game up, and because they speed the game up, it's going to be tough for Michigan State because they want to play slow. No, that is just not wrong. Okay, that's not what's going to happen. Michigan State is going to clean Bryant's clock. This game isn't going to be close for two reasons. First and foremost, Bryant's not going to speed Michigan State up because Michigan State doesn't turn the ball over enough for that to really happen. Okay, Michigan State's going to defend them well because they have better players. Sometimes it's really that simple. So Michigan State, they're going to clear Bryant. That game, it's not going to be close. Now, here's one that I don't like because it's definitely a Sackman game. And I'm annoyed because I'm on the wrong side of it. Liberty's playing Oregon today. And I don't like this because I picked Liberty. And the issue is everyone seems to like Liberty. So now I don't like my pick as much. Oregon's also really good. Like, they're just very well-rounded. Okay, they defend the rim. They've got some guys who can make threes. They got guards who can go off the dribble. They've got solid, wings who can play defense. Like, they're just good across the board. But Liberty is this team that is fifth in the country in three-point percentage, and they're in the top 25 in three-point rates, meaning they take a lot of threes. And when you play like that, I just, like you're going to make some threes. And if, you make 5 or 6 more threes than your opponent, ask Indiana, then you usually win. And because of that, a lot of people like Liberty today just because they run and gun and they're getting shots up pretty quickly. So can Oregon, limit Liberty's ability to shoot the three? Liberty also does an excellent job of not allowing three-point shots. Like they do a very good job of running teams off the three-point line. So I like Liberty in this game, but everyone seems to be on them. So this is a Sackman game, I would bet. Oregon, next game, I don't know what it is. But these teams sit back, or fans sit back, and we watch the first 4. More specifically, the 2 first 4 games that have all the 11 seeds playing. And everyone sees, these first 4 teams win, and then they just immediately pick them. Illinois was discussed as a potential Final Four team at one point this year. They are better than Xavier. Now, the concern with Illinois is that, they have some pretty low lows. Man, the highs. Don't ignore the highs now, because the best version of Illinois can beat anyone not named Duke. Seriously. I mean, that is how good this Illinois team can be. But I feel like a lot of people like Xavier, just in part because they saw them beat a Texas team that won 19 games a couple days ago. So I like Illinois in this game just to fade Xavier. Everyone also likes North Carolina to beat Ole Miss. And this one is really frustrating. It's the exact same thing in this game. Everyone saw North Carolina beat the dog crap out of San Diego State, and they're North Carolina, and we just kind of expect for them to win in March. And so now everyone's like, North Carolina, yeah, let's just ignore the fact that they beat one good team all year before their first 4 game. That's also, ignore the fact that Chris Beard is an excellent head coach, one of the best in the country. Seriously, he's won in the tournament before. He was he was coaching in the national championship game like 5 years ago. This guy is an excellent head coach, and Ole Miss they are an excellent basketball team. The fact that they're underdogs in this game, honestly, feels like free money. It does. I think Ole Miss beats North Carolina despite being 1.5-point underdogs. Last time I checked, that line may have moved one way or the other. Ole Miss, I love them to beat North Carolina, in part because I think Ole Miss is a good basketball team, and the other part of that being that everyone seems to be on North Carolina. So, oh man, those are our Sackman games of the day where we're going to fade the public. Now, today feels like upset day. I always, I think I notice this every year. Day one of March Madness never seems to be crazy. It always seems to be a little bit more tame. Kind of like yesterday. We had one like kind of an upset. 12 seed, McNeese beats a 5 seed in Clemson. But every other upset felt kind of obvious. We only had 4 lower seeds win yesterday. A 9 seed beat an 8 seed. Drake beat Missouri, but a lot of people had that. And then, 10-seeded Arkansas beats 7-seeded Kansas. Like nothing crazy has really happened yet. And I'm just kind of like waiting for the madness to ensue. I feel like the first round of the NCAA tournament always happens like this. Thursday is tame. Nothing out of the ordinary happens. Then Friday comes, and all hell breaks loose. Every 1, 2, and 3 seed won their game yesterday. That has not been the trend as of late. We have had 4 straight NCAA tournaments where a 14, 15, or 16 seed has pulled off an upset in the first round. And that didn't happen yesterday. It didn't really happen at all. Every lower seed won yesterday. Only 4 lower seeds won yesterday. So today, I think is going to be the day where we see brackets kind of start to really get busted up a little bit. Okay, I don't know what game it's going to be, but I do think that a big-time team is going to go down in some sort of fashion today. So can't wait. It's going to be a blast to watch all these games today. Coming up here at 11:20, so about 35 minutes. Luke Brennaman, IU student reporter, he's going to join the show, and we're going to talk about Darian DeVries coming to Indiana to be the new head coach. The cool thing about Darian DeVries coming is Tucker DeVries is coming as well. Okay, Indiana is landing big-time transfer Tucker DeVries in the transfer portal this year. I heard, he and his dad have a pretty good relationship, so he's going to transfer here from West Virginia. One of the best things about the transfer portal is that it allows coaches to show up without having to start over. Every player at West Virginia that Darian DeVries likes can follow him to Indiana. Makes building a team so much easier. And every player at Indiana that Coach DeVries doesn't like, he can just tell them to move on. He's kind of walking by, hey, man. Hey, Luke. I know you love Indiana and wearing the candy striped pants and telling fans what to do, but we don't need you here anymore. Right. And it's always a boost when you can bring players in with you, especially when one is your son who's already played for you for 3 years. Okay. He's going to help set that standard. Like, you don't have to worry about teaching every single thing to everybody, because he's going to show up and he's going to have different drills that he wants to teach. And, his son Tucker, he can just have him demonstrate all of them because he's been with him his entire life and he's played for him in college for the last 3 years. The other thing nice about Tucker DeVries following his dad to Indiana is he's just an awesome player. He was the Missouri Valley Conference player of the year twice. He was the Missouri Valley Conference tournament MVP twice. He was the freshman of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference. He's been named all conference all 3 years. And then this past year at West Virginia, he only played in 8 games, but he averaged 15 points a game, shooting 47% from three before hurting his shoulder. This dude can ball. Straight up. This dude is a bucket. He can shoot it. He can finish at the rim. Got a nice little dribble pull-up game. Like he's just a really, really good player. And so, this is one of the perks of bringing in Darian DeVries. You get to bring in Tucker DeVries, who is going to help his dad establish that day-to-day process because he's done it for the last 3 years. And that's going to make things easier for Coach DeVries when he shows up. And we're on portal watch over here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show, trying to figure out who from Indiana is leaving, who's going to stay, all that kind of stuff. As of right now, Malik Renew and the Cups kid, they are, they're Gabe Cups. They're not coming back. Like they're in the portal. They are not coming back. Okay. Now, if I was playing in Indiana, I would want to stay because Darian DeVries is an excellent head coach. And I'm sure that there are some pieces on this Indiana roster that I'm sure that Coach DeVries wants to keep around. Mackenzie Mbako, if that guy can just learn how to defend and move the ball a little bit more, with his size and shooting, he would fit in, I think, very well with how Coach DeVries wants to play. Fast, up and down, shooting the ball, just being, if you're highly skilled, then it seems like Coach DeVries is going to want you to come play for him. And Mackenzie Mbako is certainly that. I think Miles Rice did everything well late in the season, with the exception of shooting the ball well from three. If he can kind of develop that 3-point shot, then he can be a really good point guard. I also think that, Miles Rice plays better when the game's up and down. And I think my favorite thing that Coach DeVries said at that press conference was the best time to score is, within the first 12 seconds of the shot clock. Because if you do that, chances are the opposing team's defense isn't fully set quite yet. And I think, Miles Rice in this faster-paced offense would actually do very well. Bryson Tucker, bigger wing, freshman, who didn't play a ton. He had he had a couple cameos here and there. He had a game in Big Ten play. I think it was the Northwestern game. I don't really remember, where he scored 16. His style of play, I don't know if it's perfect for what Coach DeVries wants. He took a lot of mid-range jump shots, posted up a little bit, hit some tough fallaways, did, different types of things like that. But, if he can extend the range, then he's going to wind up being a pretty good player because he's big and he's long and he's decently athletic and he seems like he's got some skill. Everyone else, though, sayonara. I don't want to see you in Indiana, in an Indiana uniform ever again. Don't need you. Kanan Carlisle, get him out the door. Don't need you. We don't need your bad shot selection, messing up this new offense that Indiana is going to be running. Don't need it. Don't want it. Ja'Kai Newton, don't need to see your ugly outfits on the bench anymore. Pass. Don't need you. Transfer. Go to Western Kentucky. Be a starter there. Be a big deal there. Maybe make the NCAA tournament there. But no, we don't need you in Bloomington anymore. Sayonara. See you later. Okay, Luke Goody. I know you're from Indiana, and you want to wear that Indiana on your chest, but we don't. We're good. We don't need you, Luke Goody. There's no hope for you on the defensive end of the floor, right? And if there's no hope for you on the defensive end of the floor, then I don't really want you on my team. It's just, it's just kind of how it is. I'm sorry. I don't want you on my team if you can't guard. And, Luke Goody can't guard. Oregon went at him every chance that they had. So all three of those guys can follow Malik Renew and Gabe Cups right out the door. Don't need you. Okay? And I hope that they do because I want for Coach DeVries to have as many open spots as possible for these guys. Okay? Those three players have to leave for that to happen. Even if, Bryson Tucker, Mackenzie Mbako, and Miles Rice left, I wouldn't be upset. Okay, this is the best part of the transfer portal. Coaches get clean slates when they show up. They can bring in whoever they want. And you know that Coach DeVries is probably dying to spend this NIL money. You know that he is. Okay? And he's sitting there and he's like, geez, like I got all this money at my disposal. And just kind of go out and get whoever I want. That's awesome. It is awesome. It really is. So I am excited for this hire. I'm excited to get all these Indiana guys out the door because they do not need them. They don't need them in the slightest. And I think that, Coach DeVries is going to do an excellent job of going out and, grabbing, good players who can come in and shoot the basketball and really fill it up. That's what I want. I want guards who can shoot the basketball. If Coach DeVries brings those kind of guys in, then I'm going to have an outstanding time watching Indiana because the number of, missed shots when they were wide open that they missed this last year is just unacceptable. And it was. And it was very frustrating to watch. So hopefully Coach DeVries can get it rolling, immediately next year for this Indiana team. When we come back at 11 o'clock, McNeese State upset Clemson yesterday. We're going to highlight all of the other upsets that we saw yesterday. And then I'm going to tell you why McNeese State is going to beat Purdue tomorrow. All that coming your way when we come back at 11.
Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. Maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can listen to wherever you download your apps, or you can get wherever you download your apps. Excuse me. So yesterday, we had day one of March Madness coming up here in about 20 minutes. Luke Brennaman's going to join the show. We're going to talk about a team that did not make it into March Madness, and that is Indiana. We're going to talk about their new head coach, Darian DeVries. So we didn't really have any crazy upsets yesterday. Like we had only 4 lower seeds won. Creighton crushed Louisville. Okay, everyone told me that Louisville was underseeded, and then they got crushed. I don't think that they were underseeded. Seems like they were overseeded, honestly. They got beat so bad. People are talking about Creighton possibly beating Auburn. Is it possible? Sure. I don't think it'll happen, though. Creighton looked like a normal Creighton team. Just a ton of offense just coming at you. Arkansas, they beat Kansas. Watch out for Arkansas. Trying hard not to be biased here. But they do have 3 excellent guards, and John L. Davis, who's experienced, played in the Final Four. DJ Wagner, bro's a stud. Boogie Flan, still one of the best freshmen in the country, despite not having played in a while. Right? So they're potentially going to get a Adu Thero back, who's a very important piece to their front court. If they get him back, then their chances against St. John's go up pretty tremendously. Drake, 11 seed, beats 6 seed in Missouri. That Bennett Sturts kid, man, that dude's good. If anyone in the country should enter the transfer portal, it's that guy, because teams would line it up to pay that dude so much money. He did an excellent job, just really kind of controlling the pace of that game. Just an absolute clinic from Drake. Very well coached. It was just very impressive. Clemson is your headliner, though. They lose to McNeese State, and Clemson just couldn't really handle the athleticism of McNeese State. Okay, it's like they were surprised by it. Seriously, like they just can't come out. McNeese State is swarming the basketball, and Clemson's turning it over and taking bad shots, and it was just bad. Indiana fans, aren't you glad that they didn't hire Brad Burnell? Clemson ends up only scoring 13 points in the first half, which was the most jarring thing that happened yesterday. Like that happened, and it's just kind of like, what in the world? Crazy. No one expected that. Clemson's best player, Chase Hunter, puts up a goose egg in the first half. And now McNeese State is going to play Purdue tomorrow at noon. And I think McNeese State is constructed very well to beat Purdue. And I think that they will. What has been Purdue's issue all year? They struggle with athletic teams and protecting the rim. McNeese State is very athletic, and they want to get to the rim. And they're not just athletic. They are big at the guard spots. Javon Garcia, 6'3". Brandon Murray, 6'5". DJ Richards Jr. is 6'4". Quadir Copeland, 6'6". Sincere Parker is 6'3". Also, could you imagine being named Sincere? That's brutal. They're big, and they're very athletic, which is not a good combination for Purdue to have to deal with on either end of the floor, offense or defense. And in addition to being very big at the guard spots, I think one of the advantages in this game for McNeese State is they're not very big at their forward spots either, like Purdue. But McNeese State is very athletic in their front court. And the way to beat Purdue is to do one of two things. You have to take Trey Kaufman-Renn out of the game, or you have to take Braden Smith out of the game. If you can do that, you have a great chance to win the game. Everyone knows when they go in to play against Purdue that Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith, like that is where their bread is buttered. Like that, those are their guys. They are going to run their offense through those two dudes. Now, if you wanted to say, Jonathan, McNeese State will not beat Purdue tomorrow because they're not going to be able to take Trey Kaufman-Renn out of the game. Totally fair point. McNeese State does not have a guy on their roster who can guard Trey Kaufman-Renn. No one does. No one has a guy on their roster who can guard that dude. Now, here's the thing, though. What if Trey Kaufman-Renn just doesn't get any touches? Let's remember, McNeese State didn't have anyone on their roster who could guard Clemson's post players either. And they were just fine against Clemson. Now, obviously, Trey Kaufman-Renn, much, much, much better than any front court player that Clemson has, okay? And when Trey Kaufman-Renn catches the ball against McNeese State, he's probably just going to power his way to the bucket and he's going to score. I expect for McNeese State to double him when he catches the ball on the block. I'm just not sure how often he's going to get touches on the block. McNeese State only gave up 17 points to Clemson's post players yesterday, and they only allowed 24 points in the paint. They had 6 block shots, by the way, which is pretty impressive given, this team has very little size. The reason why they didn't give up very many points in the paint, and the reason why they had 6 blocks, is because of the pressure that they were able to apply on Clemson's guards. They switched almost everything, and they put a ton of pressure on the basketball. And it's tough to make a post-entry pass when there's someone in your grill. McNeese State is going to be able to relentlessly pressure the basketball all game tomorrow against Purdue. And when Purdue goes to that ball screen that that they're going to go to with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith, Braden Smith is, being able to go right, they're just going to switch it. Yesterday, against High Point, Braden Smith struggled, but I still think that he got good shots. Like, he could get that 12 to 15-foot jumper whenever he wanted it. And part of that was because High Point didn't have the guys to defend him one-on-one. And the other part of it was because High Point played a legitimate center who has to play drop coverage because he's just not athletic enough to stay in front of Braden Smith. Okay? Pretty normal. McNeese State, though, has guys who can actually guard one-on-one. They have forwards where they can just kind of switch screens and continue to pressure the basketball. The most impactful player yesterday for McNeese State was Christian Schumate, however you say it. He was the most impactful player for them yesterday. He's a tall, 6'6", long dude who's very athletic. He's going to blow up so many ball screens tomorrow. I mean, seriously, like Braden Smith's going to come off that screen and they're going to blitz him and trap him, or they're going to switch and Shumate's going to be like, that's fine. I can stay in front of this dude. And a lot of the McNeese State forwards are like that because they're not really forwards. They're just large guards that's really what they are. Okay? So they are athletic, they're big, they're going to switch, and sure, Trey Kaufman-Renn's probably going to score 25 tomorrow. But if he didn't, I wouldn't be surprised because I'm just not sure how successful Purdue is going to be in getting him the basketball. The other thing that is notable from yesterday, when I watched McNeese State play, they held Clemson's best player, a guard, Chase Hunter, to 0 points in the first half. They are more than capable of making life tough on Braden Smith. The other concern for Purdue is the other guys. How do C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, Miles Colvin handle that, pressure on the ball? Do you trust for Miles Colvin to come off a screen and take 3 dribbles tomorrow? I don't. Do you trust C.J. Cox to bring the ball up the floor, knowing that he's dribbling into what's going to be some pretty tough, harassing defense? I don't. Definitely don't trust Jakari Harris to do that. Do you trust those other guys for Purdue who are going to handle the basketball? Do you trust them? I don't. Clemson turned the ball over 13 times yesterday with experienced guards. 10 of those turnovers came in the first half. Okay, Purdue, outside of Braden Smith, doesn't have experienced ball handlers. I don't trust them to not turn the basketball over. Braden Smith, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to handle the pressure well for most of the game. But I do think that he will get worn down over the course of the game. He won't execute late, and that's what's going to cost Purdue. The other thing about McNeese State is they want to get to the rim. Okay? They take 58 shots per game on average. Only about 20 of them come from beyond the arc. And it's not because they're a bad shooting team. Like St. John's doesn't take a ton of threes because they're a poor three-point shooting team. That is not the case for McNeese State. They shot 36% from three on the year. So that's a solid percentage. If you're shooting 36% from three on the year, then you have a basketball team that is more than capable of knocking down open threes. But they don't want to take threes. They want to get to the rim. They took 62 shots against Clemson yesterday. Only 19 of them were threes. By the way, they only made 4 of them. They were 4 of 19 from three. That's 21%. That is not good, and they still won that game. They shot 21% from three and 50% from the foul line and still won. Look, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. They're going to shoot better than 50% from the foul line tomorrow, and they're probably not going to shoot 21% from three again. Water will find its level. They will shoot the basketball better tomorrow. And despite not shooting the ball well at all, really, they still beat a good Clemson team because of the way that they defended and the fact that they shot 54% on their 2-point shots yesterday and scored 44 points in the paint. I think that the front line for Clemson defensively is very similar to the front line that Purdue has. There is no shot blocking. McNeese is going to get to the rim tomorrow for 2 reasons. They're going to score at the rim tomorrow for 2 reasons. 1, no shot blocking from Purdue. And 2, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, they're not staying in front of their guys. Like, they're smart defenders. They know where to be. But come on now. Those guys are not elite-level defenders. McNeese State has too many guys who can take you off the bounce. They are going to get to the rim tomorrow, and they're going to finish there because, like Clemson, Purdue has a lack of rim protection. The other area where I like for McNeese to have some success is Purdue's not a great rebounding team. They hold their own, no doubt about it. But they are susceptible on the glass. And McNeese State crushed Clemson on the boards yesterday. With that being said, I don't expect for McNeese State to grab 18 offensive rebounds like they did against Clemson. But can they pull in like somewhere between 9 and 12? And, pick up an extra, 14 points off of second chance opportunities? That is very possible. Undoubtedly possible that they can pick up some very important second chance points like they did against Clemson yesterday. So I think tomorrow's game between McNeese State and Purdue is going to be fascinating. I really do. I am so excited to watch that game because, look, I am an athlete snob. I am. It's really why I'm picking McNeese tomorrow. I think their athleticism is going to give them an edge over Purdue. Maybe that's, a wrong way to go about it, but hey, that's what I think is going to happen. So that game is tomorrow at 12:10. We got John Calipari and Rick Pitino going at it at 2:40. That game's going to be awesome. Michigan and A&M tomorrow. That game should be fun. Drake and Texas Tech. Man, tomorrow's slate. For me, the second round of the NCAA tournament's my favorite because every game's a good game, and there are still upsets on the table. Like if McNeese beats Purdue, that's an upset. If Arkansas beats St. John's, that's an upset. If Drake beats Texas Tech, if Creighton beats Auburn, if Gonzaga beats Houston, if UCLA beats Tennessee, all of those are considered upsets. By the way, UCLA was the easiest bet of the day yesterday. Finished 4th in the Big Ten, and they're playing Utah State. Come on now. Got to take them in that game. So the slate tomorrow is going to be awesome. We've got some good games today. We're going to go over those at 11:40. We'll probably go over the Sackman games of the day as well. Can't wait to get into all that. But first, Luke Brennaman, Indiana or IU student reporter. He's going to join the show. We're going to talk about Darian DeVries and him coming over to Indiana from West Virginia. I'm sure we'll talk about the tournament as well. So Luke Brennaman from IU coming up Luke Brennaman from IU is coming your way to talk about Darian DeVries when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you find yourself running to the bathroom all day and night, you're not really living your life. Constant bathroom breaks can disrupt your social scene.
I'm so embarrassed.
And your sleep.
Ugh, this is the third time.
But now there's relief. In Control. In Control by Eucora is the herbal supplement that reduces urinary urgency, frequency, and the occasional accidents or leaks associated with normal aging. In Control is made with a clinically tested blend of herbs that supports healthy bladder function, so you can enjoy more worry-free travel, more uninterrupted sleep, and more freedom from pee emergencies.
Do you need to stop? Nope. Drive on. I'm in control.
And now get up to 25% off In Control when you go to eucora.com/control. That's eucora.com/control for up to 25% off. eucora.com/control.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. On Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there, subscribe. You can also watch the show on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. We're streaming there as well. Joining the show, Luke Brennaman, IU student reporter, also co-host of the Dialed In podcast over with Chatterbox Sports. He joins the show. Luke, what's going on, man? How are you?
How are you? I mean, it's the best week of the year. I think it's self-explanatory for us basketball fans out there. I love this week. It's actually kind of ironic. As an Indiana student, we're on spring break. I always know this week, especially throughout high school and even middle school, you sneak on the March Madness Live platform. You watch all the games during class. You don't listen to a lick of things. You don't take any notes. But it's a little bit of a different feel. I'm kind of sleeping in until I come on your show and then doing some schoolwork. But at the end of the day, I'm just itching, waiting for these games to tip off at about 12:15.
Me too. I felt like a child last night, Luke. So I am from Arkansas. So I am an avid Arkansas Razorback fan. And I'm sitting on my couch last night and I'm watching, and Kansas goes to this stupid zone. I don't know how much of the game you watched, but
Watch the game. I love Cal.
Oh, you're like the only person that's not an Arkansas fan that loves that guy. So I'm watching, and Kansas goes to that stupid zone, and Arkansas would force a turnover or get a missed shot, and I would jump off my couch and start yelling push the ball, go, please stop walking the ball up the floor. And my wife actually started to mimic me, and I felt so childish. It was brutal.
Well, I think that's what this month brings out of you, and especially these opening weekends. It's all about feeling like a kid again, bringing out whether it's being an alumni or a fan or the childhood team that you just rooted for your whole life because you like the mascot. I mean, I was on vacation this week, and I found myself watching the game with a towel over my head, shielding my phone from the sun as I'm slapping the beach chair with my arms out, telling the team to play defense. But yeah, I mean, it's all for the love of the game. It's such a bummer that Indiana's not in this tournament because as a student, I've never, been able to experience that as just a personal bias type of thing where I can't imagine that level of intensity and fandom there.
It is a bummer, but hopefully it changes next year. I like the Darian DeVries hire. What'd you think about it?
I really like it. And the first thing that jumped out to me was you're looking through candidates who I felt Indiana media, as ruthless as it is, as unfair as it is, because there's a difference between media and there's a difference between Twitter burners and Twitter anonymous tweeters and people who say they have inside information and say they're a booster and say that what they think is the right way to think. So I don't want to get that mixed up. But nonetheless, I felt a lot of those names swirling around in a hire like Indiana where you have the resources to pretty much go get whoever you want, at least not like the Patinos of the world. But the fact that he was even in that conversation proves my point, where people feel that Indiana can kind of get who they want. And so many different names were flying out there for so many different reasons. And I'm just happy that they got a guy that his name wasn't flying out there. And it's a guy who's going to come in and set a new standard. He's not a big name. He's not going to jump out at you. He doesn't have the type of Indiana ties like a legendary player like Mike Woodson had. And I think that that's good for this program because I don't necessarily think they need a restart, but it's more of a culture change. And that's exactly what DeVries is saying he's going to bring in. And, a couple 20-win seasons at Drake, and then you go turn around a program like West Virginia. A lot of people are forgetting that West Virginia team won, 8 or 9 games? He won 19 games this year. They should have gotten the tournament. And it's not like they were coming off a bad year. They're coming through a bad, last 2 or 3 seasons with the way everything unfolded with Coach Huggins and his legacy there, and an abrupt fire in college basketball in today's society, something to really bounce back from as a program. That's a difficult thing. So Indiana, I think, got their guy, and I'm really excited for this new era.
I am too, joined by Luke Brennaman, IU student reporter and co-host of the Dialed In podcast over for Chatterbox Sports, talking about Darian DeVries being hired by Indiana University, not the University of Indiana, as Malik Renew said. I still can't believe he said that, but I'm with you. I'm very excited. Like you said, there's a new era. So I have this thing, Luke, that I call the ex-girlfriend theory. And basically what that is you'll notice that some guys, not everybody, when they date someone and they break up, their next, girlfriend is usually very different from whoever they just broke up with. And I think sports teams do the exact same thing. I don't think Darian DeVries and Mike Woodson could really be any different. Like what you were saying, he has no ties to Indiana really at all. He's just going to show up and be a really good coach. Do you have any concerns with Darian DeVries coming over from West Virginia?
No, I don't this early. And I'm a lot less critical than I would say a really good writer would be or should be. I'm more of an on-air, or at least what I want to do and what I'm studying within sports media, Indiana, and on-air. I want to do play-by-play, and I've covered teams on beat reporters like the football team, and I do some kind of freelance work with Indiana Hoops when I'm bored and want to do some stuff. But from a critical-minded perspective, there's definitely some things where it's like you're not getting a guy where Indiana feels like as a program, you want to go get a guy that has made a Final Four, that has won a national championship, that has proven that he has done what we expect and are pretty much paying him to do as a university somewhere else. Because it's like, okay, you've done it there, then why can't you do it with $7 million of NIL and everything else here with the fan base and support of Indiana? But that's why I almost like this hire, because I thought, unlike a Brad Brunell at Clemson, where he's coached there for a decade now, and they had, I'm not going to say this like it's sarcastically, but it really was one Cinderella run into the Elite Eight, and he's getting considered for the Indiana job. Whether you think that's an inflated job market and Indiana missed out on the Dusty May last year, some other names, then so be it. But I look at as Indiana may have just caught a guy on his way up to greatness. In my opinion, if you're going to hire a Greg McDermott or a Brad Brunell, they've coached for so long that, heck, if it doesn't work out at Indiana, they're really only going to coach for what, 5 to 10 more years max? So I don't think it's going to put a stain on their career. The DeVries hire, the way I look at it, is he got his dream job, and he's going to come excel, grow, and blossom into an elite head coach, not only inside of the Big Ten, but nationally. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying that's the plan around it. So instead of going and getting a guy who's already somewhat accomplished and certainly comfortable and has roots and a foundation established in other places, we got a guy who wants to establish his personal career foundation here. And that's why I love him saying, I am a winner and I do not quit until I win. And that's what his son has said. That's what his former players have said. That's what Doug McDermott, Greg McDermott's son, said on the Field of 68 podcast. He said, this is a guy who's going to go there, and if it doesn't work out, he will not stop until it does. And I absolutely love that, because that just didn't seem to be the case with an older.
Luke, you there? Something happened. Luke,
Jonathan,
there you are. Maybe.
did I cut out there?
Yeah, you did.
I just finished it with the kicker saying that hunger and ability to not quit until you succeed. And, it's easier said than done, but how everyone's saying that about him is something that I think Indiana missed out with on Mike Woodson. It felt like he had his roots as a player. He's accomplished inside the NBA. And when he was done, he was done. I think with a 6-year deal, DeVries is here to stay, and he's not going to stop until it gets to the point where he.
Yeah, I completely agree. Joined by Luke Brennaman, IU student reporter, also co-host of the Dialed In podcast over there for Chatterbox Sports, talking about Indiana hiring Darian DeVries to be their new head coach. So you talk about the success and how he's not going to quit until it happens. How quickly do you think he finds success at Indiana?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that this is a really tough year to start out because, if you're losing guys like Cups to the transfer portal, and, who knows what's the future of Rice and Baco, these other guys. I mean, there's also, 6 guys that graduated, and that might not even be counting Goody if he doesn't get that extra year. So I don't know if it's going to be as instant as next year, but he turned around an 8 or 9 win West Virginia team. They won 19 games last year in a league that may have been better top to bottom than the Big Ten. So I think that Indiana, with their money and ability to acquire talent, a coach, you start in a lighter non-con schedule, I think that he could have them ready to go by, 25% through Big Ten play to where they're competing to pick up quad one wins and potentially sneak in the tournament. I think that the standard at Indiana every year should be to make the tournament. The field is 68 teams. You look at some of these teams who are playing in the tournament in Power 5 conferences. I mean, West Virginia, they arguably should have been in the tournament this year. So it's like, if they would have got in, the story would have been like, oh my gosh, like if Indiana couldn't do this, just make the tournament. That's the bare minimum of play an NCAA tournament game, first four, round of 64, whatever. And a guy like DeVries can go there in a conference like the Big 12 that is probably deeper than the Big 10, and he beat Iowa State. He picked up multiple top 10 wins throughout the season. Then, yeah, I think that they could make the tournament, but a real change where we're going to say Indiana basketball is back, I want to give Coach DeVries 2 years. That's what, 33% of his contract, and then you go from there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I am in the boat of, once again, joined by Luke Brennaman, Eastern reporter, co-host of the Dialed In podcast, talking about Darian DeVries coming to Indiana. You brought up like all these players leaving, and I know that we complain a lot about the transfer portal. To me, this is the best thing about it. Coach DeVries can show up, have like 9 open roster spots, and just kind of go get whoever he wants, because that NIL money is. We got some deep pockets in Bloomington for that. So I'm excited about it. With that being said, which IU players do you want to stay?
Ooh. I have been off of the Mackenzie Mbako hype since it started, whether it's been the lottery pick stuff and whatnot. But there's no denying that the talent is there. It's the idea of, can a coach find a role for him inside of an offense? And then you have to parlay that with, is Mackenzie intelligent enough and has the basketball IQ to fit into a truly well-coached system? Because that's where I think you've seen his flaws this year, where it's been a lack of effort defensively, or a lack of heads-up plays, or an inability to make the right decision, putting the ball on the ground or shooting early in the shot clock. I just think if you let a guy like Mackenzie go, it's probably worse than keeping him and maybe him coming off the bench or not playing as much until he fully develops under a new system. With Miles Rice, that is a complete coin flip for me. I would love to see like a poll of Indiana fans of would they want to keep Rice or not, because some people like him. They like the speed. They like the talent. He has a lot of the tools, but for a guy who led all freshmen in Pac-12 scoring last year and was a Pac-12 freshman of the year, I just didn't really see it this year shot-making perspective. Yes, he knocked in a couple big threes down the stretch in Big Ten play, but it just felt like every time those mid-range pull-up jumpers, it didn't feel like that was a high percentage look, especially watching it on TV or in person. It was like he wasn't very confident. He would hesitate. So if he can't get his scoring figured out, then I don't really know, because he's going to get offered huge money somewhere else. Therefore, you have to pay him huge money to stay. So I look at it from the perspective, if Ben McCollum at Drake right now, who just won a tournament game last night over Missouri, can take a bunch of Division II players and through a system and through a coaching staff and through a philosophy, win an NCAA tournament game after making the NCAA tournament and being 6.5-point underdogs and beat a team, not just any team, an SEC team after all we heard about and got it blown up in our face in the Midwest, how good the SEC is at basketball this year, then it isn't just the players who win you games. And that's what I'll leave it at that. I really think that if you're with a good coaching staff that knows their identity and who they want to be, that is the Drake Bulldogs 100%, then it doesn't necessarily matter who's NBA ready, who's worth $600,000. It's who's going to show up and play 40 minutes for you. Yeah,
you're exactly right. Joined by Luke Brennaman, Eastern reporter, host of the Dialed In podcast for Chatterbox Sports. So that being said, like that Bennett Sturts kid's insane, and it is helpful to have guys like that on your team. But no, I'm with you. Like if DeVries can come in and set his system and get the right players, like that's the thing that really pops out about watching Drake. All those guys feel like they're perfect for the way that they play. And there were moments this year watching Indiana where it didn't feel like everyone's role was really defined, and it felt kind of weird and clunky. And you watch Drake, and because of just the understanding of what that system is, and those guys have been with Coach McCollum for like 3 or 4 years now, and so like that helps as well. But I'm with you. It's more than just the players. That being said, I want Mbako to stay so badly, just because, as you mentioned, like with Coach Woodson, it seemed like he was pretty content when he showed up. Like he obviously wanted the job. He wanted to win, all those things. But, like his legacy was pretty secure, right? And I think that when you have a coach like that, it's a little harder to hold players. It's just there's not as much incentive to push players to be great. Whereas like with Coach DeVries, who has yet to really do anything, just the idea of him showing up, getting Mbako to buy in, play some defense. I don't know, man. I like 6'8" guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot,
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you let him go and he finds a dream head coach or he finds a different school, I mean, take Caleb Banks. He graduated from Indiana last year, and he never played or wasn't even looked at as an offensive threat in the Big Ten. He went to Tulane and had a great year from a scoring perspective, which shocked me when I saw his numbers and saw him playing in the American Conference tournament. So that's the thing with Mbako. Like, I talked to a writer for Indiana, Zach Browning, who's another student. I was like, what is your take? Because you really keep up with this team and everything from a media perspective. And it was interesting to me. He said he can be, a tunnel at times where he doesn't pass the ball or make the right play, but it's really hard to say no to a 6'7" guy who can go get you a basket in three different ways: off the bounce at the free throw line, or of course, knocking down a three. So it's going to be interesting because like Coach DeVries has all this time now. They're not in the tournament. This is kind of like a dead period where guys are entering the portal. They're thinking about going to the portal. The high schoolers are debating whether they're going to stay at Indiana or decommit somewhere else with coaching changes, etc. So he can handcraft this team, and Indiana is giving him the resources to do just that. So he certainly is going to start making that identity and figuring out who has to stay, who can't stay, who financially is viable to hold around. So I really look forward to seeing these first steps. And it's kind of fun because college basketball and all of college sports, especially football and basketball, are turning into year-long games with almost a free agency period.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Joined by Luke Brennaman, IU student reporter, co-host of the Dialed In podcast for Chatterbox Sports. Your comment on Caleb Banks, like I'm with you. Like it was very surprising to go see him go to Tulane and be really good offensively. From now for the end of time, or until the transfer portal continues to be like this, I'm just going to expect that from like power, Division I transfers who transfer down to mid-major. Mike Lewis, the head coach of Ball State, he came on Dan's show earlier in the year, and he watched UCLA practice. And Dan had made a comment about some of the better mid-major teams this year. And Coach Lewis was just like, UCLA's second team would win our league. And the MAC's not a bad mid-major conference. And so just like the difference between those two leagues are really just like power Division I basketball versus the mid-majors is crazy. But I'm with you. Last thing before I let you go. Who do you have winning your bracket?
I have Houston. I think that combination of consistently playing defense, whether you score or don't score on the previous offensive trip, paired with Kelvin Sampson and an older team who knows how to win and simply never left the AP top 25 poll in the last 3 seasons. This is just a team that I think has the whole package, and they're flying under the radar. They started the tournament at 7-1 on the odds. They're down to 6-1 after the first round, but you get a lot of the Cooper Flag and the Broom and Auburn and the SEC stuff that's thrown right at you, and for good reason. They can score. They're talented. They are the players of the year. But I think Houston, like the Big 12 is right there behind the SEC. You're telling me Iowa State can't compete with those teams? How about BYU as a sleeper team that I think is going to give Wisconsin everything that they can handle, if not more, tomorrow on Saturday? So they were battle-tested in that league. They picked up the wins, and I'm going to rock with Kelvin Sampson and the Houston Cougars. I really think they get over the hump this year, and it would surprise a lot of people, yes, but they're right there, and they belong in that conversation. Who do you have?
I took Duke. I love everything about them. Okay, Luke, I am an athlete snob. I am. Like, I saw McNeese State overwhelm Clemson athletically, and I'm like, McNeese State is beating Purdue tomorrow. So I am an athlete snob, and I look at Duke. I think they're highly athletic. They're huge. Like, they have one guy on their roster who's shorter than 6'5", and he's a 5'8" walk-on. And so they're big, they're long. Cooper Flagg is, in my opinion, he's the best player in the country. But here's the thing. I think Duke's so good, even if Cooper Flagg didn't play in the tournament, I would still pick them. Like, they're deep. They shoot the ball really well. They're great on the defensive end of the floor. My only concern is the rebounding. Like, they should be a better rebounding team. But I would like to think that with your season on the line, when you're trying to win a national title, I'd like to think that rebounding effort is going to be there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Duke's almost so hard not to pick that could have been part of the reason that people like myself are picking against them. I just can't imagine. I've talked to people who have watched them courtside this year. I know my dad caught a couple games of theirs this year in the ACC, and he said, like, you don't realize how long these guys are. Like, when they stick their hands out defensively, it feels like they're covering one sideline to the other sideline and could tip any pass, shot, dribble in the world. So I think that's certainly a recipe for success. I just know they're a little bit younger, and from the guards, like, they're going to have to knock down threes. The greatest equalizer in college basketball is that three-point jump shot come this time of the year, because anyone can hit it at any size. And I just think the ability for Houston to play at all three levels, where they have dominant bigs, yes, Duke does, but they stay out of foul trouble, and then they have the older scorers on the outside. That was my only edge, but I just can't wait to see some of these lines for some of the games. Like, how heavy of a favorite is an Auburn over an Alabama in a tournament game this time around? How heavy of a favorite would Houston be against, a team trying to come out of that region the Elite Eight round? So it's going to be a very eventful March, and definitely going to string into an awesome April. But I appreciate you having me on, as always.
Of course, man. Have a good time. Sit down on the couch or a beach towel or whatever you're going to do. Watch games. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay, so maybe do or don't, have a beer or two. I don't know what you do, and just have a blast, man. Like, it's like you said, it's one of the best days of the year, one of the best weekends of the year. Luke, thanks for your time, man. As always, you were great.
Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too. That is Luke Brennaman. You can check him out on Twitter at BrennyPXP. Does just an excellent job covering Indiana sports. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, the good games from today, what games are going to be fun to watch. And then we've got the Sack Man games as well, the games where the public really likes a specific team, so you should go the other way. All those coming your way when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
One day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice week. Hopefully you made money betting the games last night. Nothing too crazy happened yesterday. You know, we had an 11 seed beat a 6, but everyone was on Drake. We had a 10 seed beat a 7, but, you know, it's Coach Cal. Who wants to bet against Coach Cal? Nobody. Not really. You probably do. His March record as of late has not been super great. You know, we had a 9 seed beat an 8 seed. The really only upset we had was McNeese State beating Clemson. But aside from that, yesterday was pretty tame. And I feel like this is the trend of March Madness. Thursday comes, everyone's all revved up, ready to go. And we don't really get any upsets. Pretty much every team that's supposed to win does win. And then Friday happens. And Friday's the day when we start seeing all of these upsets. For the last 4 years, we have seen a 14, 15, or 16 seed win a first-round game. That didn't happen yesterday, which makes me kind of feel like it's going to happen today. I mean, the higher seed won every game played yesterday except for 4. Only 4 lower seeds won yesterday, and that just doesn't line up with the March Madness title. So I do think that today we see one of the better teams, like a Sweet 16, like a commonly picked Sweet 16 team, go down in the first round. But games start coming up here in like 15 minutes. Can't wait for that to happen. Now, we do have some good games lined up today. I think Baylor, Mississippi State, the game that starts here in like 15 minutes or so. I'm excited for it. VJ Edgecombe, he's playing. He's the best athlete in all of college basketball. Okay, he's like 6'3". You blink, and his like chest is at the rim. Like, he's just blazing fast, super quick, very explosive. So he's a blast to watch. Jeremy Roach, obviously a seasoned vet who won a lot of games at Duke before transferring to Baylor this season. Seasoned veteran guy who's won a lot of games. So the backcourt for Baylor is dynamic, explosive, and kind of experienced. But Mississippi State, they're favored for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that SEC bias. I don't know. But they're big, long. They rebound well. Josh Herbert, he can go get a bucket for you whenever you need it. I think that game's going to be awesome, but I do like Baylor to win. Another good game lined up for today. I think Colorado State and Memphis is going to be fun. Like, this is a rare game where a 12 seed is favored. So I can't wait for people to get the Nick Clifford experience. He is a legitimate first-round NBA draft pick. That's a large reason why Colorado State is favored. Memphis, also notorious this season for playing down to their opponent's level of competition. New Mexico, they're playing Marquette. And, yeah, I can't wait for this game either. Donovan Dent, can't wait to watch him play tonight. I think New Mexico is the best mid-major team in the tournament, excluding Gonzaga, because they don't really feel like a mid-major team the way that they kind of run through the tournament every year, especially the first weekend of it. So they've got just a bunch of dudes who can really play. They're big. They have size. Marquette, good team. A little undersized, though. So I think, you know, New Mexico is going to give them all they can handle. Cam Jones, one of the best guards in the country. That matchup between him and Donovan Dent is going to be just an absolute blast. Shaka Smart back in March, trying to win games. I just love this time of the year. And then the final game that I'm really looking forward to is Oklahoma playing against UConn. Oklahoma, I think they're a little slept on. This Fierce kid can go win a game for you. Like, he's that talented. We know what to expect from UConn. I want Danny Hurley in this tournament for as long as possible because he just makes watching college basketball so much more fun. So UConn, they're going to be prepared. Liam McNeely, still one of the better freshmen in the country. Okay, so they have expectations based on recent success, not only from fans, but also from, you know, like their team. So you just kind of expect them to go out and play well. Danny Hurley, he's going to have them revved up and ready to go. And then we have another group of games that I'm going to call Sackman games. For those unfamiliar with Sackman, he's a very what's successful sports gambler, and his whole thing is just fading the public. Whatever the consensus popular opinion is, he just goes the other way. Bryant, Michigan State. A lot of people like Bryant. I do not. Michigan State's going to clean their clock today. Oh, but Bryant plays really fast. Don't care. Michigan State has better players. It's Tom freaking Izzo. You really want to bet against that guy? I don't. So Michigan State, bet them all the way. A lot of people are on Liberty beating Oregon as, another 12-5 upset. I know I'm on it. And the more I hear people say it, the less I like the bet. Because Oregon's good, but also, we want to fade the public. Liberty takes a ton of threes. They're top 25 in the country in three-point rate. They make a lot. They're fifth in the country in three-point shooting percentage. Okay, so, if they're taking them and making them, this is a game that Liberty could easily win. But if they're not, Oregon is an excellent basketball team who could run them out of the building. That's how good Oregon is. And then for some reason, people really like the 11 seeds today. If you win a game in the first four against another team that barely made the tournament, all of a sudden you're just considered great, apparently. I guess that's how that works. People are on Xavier. Do not bet Xavier. Xavier's not very good. I know they beat Texas, but I don't care. Do not waste your money on that team. I think Illinois kind of runs through them today. The best version of Illinois can beat just about anyone in all of college basketball. So can't wait to watch that game. And then the last one, my favorite bet of the day. Everyone loves North Carolina right now because they crushed San Diego State, a team that barely made the NCAA tournament. And everyone's picking them against Ole Miss. Why? Chris Beard is an excellent head coach. He's one of the best in college basketball. He's taken 4 different teams to the NCAA tournament. 5 years ago, he was coaching in the national championship game at Texas Tech. Okay? Like this guy wins in March. He's an excellent head coach. People are disrespecting this Ole Miss team. And they shouldn't be, because they can play with just about anybody. I love Ole Miss today. They're underdogs, which is just bonkers to me. So I like Ole Miss to beat North Carolina straight up. Thanks for taking the time out of your day and out of your week to tune into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. I am off Monday and Tuesday. I've got some family stuff going on that I have to not deal with, but go and check out. So I won't be here Monday or Tuesday. Feel free to tweet at me at _ Jonathan Smith after Arkansas beats St. John's tomorrow. I would greatly appreciate that. That's sarcasm. Arkansas is not beating St. John's tomorrow, but it's going to be a blast. The Dan Dockett Show, nice and loaded up for you today. Fran Fraschilla, he's joining the show at 12:30. And then Eddie White, 2 o'clock to talk Pacers. And they've won 4 in a row, and none of them have been normal. It's great. So he's going to join the show at 2 o'clock. That's going to do it for the Real Jonathan Smith Show. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes.